Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome to Wednesday of the week before spring break. And I know that yesterday you were supposed to start Paul Revere's ride and finish it up today. But I wanted to just give you a little bit of insight into Paul Revere. I was told that you really don't know much about him, maybe have never heard of him yet, but he was quite a big player at the beginning of the American Revolution back in 1770s. So just as a quick synopsis of Paul Revere, he was born in Boston in, I want to say, 1735-ish. So by the time that this poem, the event in this poem took place, the ride, um, he was about 40 years old. Um, he was a silversmith. He made things out of silver. He worked his way up to a goldsmith. And then to earn extra income, he became an engraver and then a dentist. The engraver I get because you can engrave gold, silver, but the dentist, I'm not sure why he chose that, but he earned extra money. Let me tell you why he might have needed extra money. He married a girl and they had 8 children. Then she died unexpectedly. He married again and they had 8 children. So all total, he was the father of 16 children. So possibly extra income would have come in handy. So by the time, like I said, this event happened, he was around 40 years old. Now, he was a patriot. He loved America. He was very patriotic to the cause of freedom from the British. And remember, America was trying to earn its independence from Britain at this point. Do you remember when the Declaration of Independence was signed? That's 1776, so only a year later. So things were already in the works to break away completely from Britain and have our own independence. So this night, the British soldiers were in Boston, and Paul Revere had gotten word that they might be leaving Boston and maybe going to Lexington, which was across the countryside, to arrest John Hancock and someone else. Now, remember, John Hancock was a main guy in the Declaration of Independence. So Paul Revere devised this plan with his friends, that he was going to have one of his friends stationed at the Old North Church in Boston. And this friend was to keep an ear out for what the British movement would be like. Okay, so the plan was hang a lantern in the Old North Church tower, one lantern if the British are going to come out of Boston by sea or across the Charles River. No, I'm sorry. One lantern if they were going to go by land, march on land. 2 lanterns if they were going to cross the Charles River. So Paul Revere stole away from Boston across the river that night. And he rowed himself across the river, got out, and he waited. Now, Paul Revere, according to the poem, he was quite impatient. He was constantly looking at that bell tower. He was constantly, I guess, just antsy about how he was going to get the word out. So finally, his friend hangs a lantern. And then Paul Revere sees a second lantern, and off he goes on a horse. Whether that horse is his or not, we don't know. It really doesn't matter. But he rode off in the direction of Lexington, Massachusetts, to warn John Hancock that the British were coming. They were leaving Boston that night, and they were coming across that river. So he warned all the people that he could in the countryside to be ready. The British soldiers were going to be coming through there. And when it says to arm, when he called the alarm to arm, That means that he let them know they needed to be armed. They needed to have their guns ready, their weapons at the ready. So he got there, he warned them. Now, why is this important to us today? Why is this Paul Revere's ride important for us? Like I said, Paul Revere was quite patriotic. His call to patriotism, for people to rise up and be strong, to be courageous in a time of uncertainty, of danger, that still resonates with us today. For the most part, Americans are patriotic. Americans love our freedom, and we want to think that we are ready to fight. Okay, so a lot of us are armed, some for the wrong reasons, but if it came down to something like this where we were threatened, I think Americans would patriotically be ready. So I wanted to bring your attention just to one line in the poem. Let me share my screen with you. And hold on. I could never find it when I need it. Let me see. Where's common live? Right here. Okay, let me put my glasses on. And this is one of the questions in the assessment questions, okay? Line 79 right here. Now this is when Paul Revere struck out on his horse. It says, "The spark struck out by that steed in his flight, kindled the land into flame with its heat." Now, this does not mean that the horse started a fire or that he was running so fast that his hooves striking against the ground could start a fire. These are metaphors. Spark, kindled, flame, heat. These are all fire metaphors. Now, what do you think fire in this instance could be? A lot of times we may hear the phrase "through the fire," which means not particularly walking through an actual fire, but fire could refer to a terrible time, a trial, difficult circumstances. So in this case, the fire metaphors refer to this battle, the war that is about to ensue. After Paul Revere warned the people in the countryside and then the British got to Lexington, the Battle of Lexington occurred, and then the American Revolution was started at that point. Okay, so when you get to that question about the spark struck out by that steed, that means at that point when Paul Revere left, he was setting into motion the ability of our American people to enter into war. Okay, so I hope this helps. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask me through Teams. I can do a private Zoom, whatever. I know this is a long text, but please let me just remind you, read it like you're reading a story. Okay, just read it like you're reading a story, and make sure you click on these numbers here because they give you great vocabulary definitions. Also, I told Octavius yesterday, use Google. This is a perfect time for you to look up words that you don't understand. Menacing comes to mind. Phantom comes to mind. So if you need to look up those words, look them up so that they can help you with some of these questions. Okay? Y'all have a great day. I still miss you. Bye.